Hey guys, welcome to Isaiah's Reviews, and today we're reviewing my summer's best item so far. This is the TempSpike by ThermoPro. This thing is fascinating. One thing I want out of the temperature probe is a fast connection, super fast, and having a readout on here to boot. All those things are highly desired in the world of cooking. Fiddling with these wireless probes that you see from all these other makers without a readout sometimes can be painful, but this one, super simple and easy. I've cooked two things with it, and we'll get into that later. But right now, let's get you familiar with this device, what it can do, and I'll explain how I used it and how I think you should probably go buy yourself one. Here's the two probes. You get a white one, black one here. I'm going to talk about from the top down to the bottom what these things you see in front of you are. These big chunky white and black things here is a sensor made for ambient temperature readings, because it can do ambient temperature and internal via the probe. The sensor is in the tip here. There's a line here that you need to go past when inserting to the meat, and then you have this sticking out for your ambient temperature, which is great to know exactly where you're standing with smoking and cooking and things of that nature, on long cooks, I should say. This whole entire unit here, right in here, is the booster. So it will boost a signal to your device, but your booster can go up to 500 feet. And that is true. I've gone through an external wall, two internal walls, and still had a solid signal. If you drop a signal, you get notified by a piercing sound that sounds just like a smoke detector going off. No joke. It will get your attention because there's no notification on your phone that has that same signal sound, without a doubt. And I like that. I like it a lot. Plastic cover that you get on this off. It's backlit here, so that you have your probe 1 and 2, your black and white. You have a backlit, of course, but you have this button here which you can push 3 times. One time will cycle between the internal temp, and then another time is the ambient temp, and then another time you can have it on rotate, where it will go back and forth between meat and ambient. You can see that readout, which is great. You do get USB Type-C port here on the side to charge this. A magnet in the back, rubber feet. There's 5 of them back here, so it doesn't scratch your appliance that it's on, and it doesn't move around or slide. It kind of has a good grip from these little rubber notches here. If this unit goes off and makes a noise, which you can cancel that via this S button. It also serves as a multi-purpose thing. You can hold it down for 3 seconds and pair an additional probe, or if you lose one, have to buy an additional one, but it comes paired from the factory, so I haven't had to deal with that, but that exists to be able to do that if you need another probe. And the S button also turns the device on, so if you just need to turn it on, it'll do that, which this is referred to as the booster. This housing is the booster, so to turn the booster on is also the S button. So it's a multifunction button there, and then the light button is the only 2 buttons you have on the unit. The internal temperature range of the probes is 14 degrees Fahrenheit up to 212 degrees Fahrenheit. Ambient temperature range is up to 572 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's what you got to be careful with. If you want to sear a steak or some sort of meat or something, make sure to keep that external probe away from that, anything above 572 degrees, because it will probably melt it. I did a steak, I did 2 steaks and seared and stuff, and then I wanted a long cook after a sear. So I inserted the probes after the searing process, so you might want to do the same. Probe to booster length is about 6.5 feet to 33 feet, somewhere in that range, depending on the type of grill that you have and the casing that you close down over what you're cooking. Like I said earlier, the booster goes 500 feet. The probe battery life is 36 hours, which is very impressive, and I believe it says 3 months for the booster, which is pretty crazy too. So you might have to charge this just a few times a year, depending on how much you use it. With this Bluetooth 5.2 technology, it does pierce through stuff and get right to your phone. And so your phone, you can download TempSpike, and it's on iOS and Android. Works like a champ, connects no problem, and once you're connected, boom, the speediness of pulling these things out and connecting to the app was super fast. I could go in there and change what my range is for the ambient and the probe itself, and fine-tune and really dial that in, and I appreciated the app. That was great. I've used all the major players before that are in this space, and for the speed, the convenience, the readout, the range, all the conditions that I cook in, to me, the TempSpike is by far the best. I cooked 2 steaks with it, seared, then inserted this in and then indirect cooked the rest of the way, and I'll let the probe tell me how long. And then my wife said, no joke, this is one of the best steaks you've cooked. Because usually I just kind of eyeball that thing, and for whatever reason my steak quality kind of varies around and teeters. Some days it's good. When I see her go to the fridge and grab the A1, I know something's wrong, something's up. But she did not do this with this, and it was just a simple salt, pepper seasoning, sear, probe in, cook to my desired temperature. I knew exactly, I can be extremely consistent that way, and use it on everything. Don't be scared. Burgers, whatever you want. Consistency is the key with stuff in people's head, because burgers, steaks, all that kind of stuff that people go eat, consistency plays a huge part. And I believe these TempSpikes will allow you to be consistent on stuff that you really wouldn't even usually use a temperature probe on. But give it a shot. Consistency is the key. Another thing I decided to cook was a whole chicken. I put it up against my Spider Grill probe. So I had the Spider Grill probe. It was a drunk chicken. And then I used this probe, which I had to go in from the other way up because of the Weber kettle grill sits pretty low. And then this probe will sit up high, So I just went in from the bottom, the same, and got this point into the meatiest part and had this sticking out toward the bottom. The Spider Grill probe, I was able to go traditional because it kind of has an elbow that comes off. And they were right on track with one another through the entire cook process with the internal temp and the ambient temp. Both devices I used to cook this chicken with read both. So it was a good comparison to see a wireless probe versus an actual plug-in temperature probe. And they stayed right on track through the whole thing. I got my proper notifications when it was over, pulled it off, and the chicken was great. It was perfectly cooked. Very reliable through the 2 cooks that I've done. And I can tell you, these feel beefy. This seal in here, this capsule that it's in feels good and solid. And it's beefy because of how long that battery lasts, which is insane. So really, I have no problems, no issues with using this to report. It worked exactly as planned. A lot of these things can be disastrous, but it was a beautiful thing, and I highly suggest you go out and you get yourself a TempSpike Duo set right here. I'll leave a link to it down in the YouTube description, so make sure to go check that out. Make sure to explode on that subscribe button and ding that bell so you get notified on the next product review I got coming out soon. I've got a lot coming, and it's going to be good. See ya.